Caleb Williams during the Bears' 4-game win streak, 932 passing yards, 163 rushing yards, 8 total touchdowns, no picks. Yet it feels like no respect is coming to the Bears despite the way that they're playing. There's 4-0 record of the month and all of these touchdowns, and it just feels like we haven't been able to buy in. The question, Caroline, is what's it going to take for us to all suddenly embrace this Chicago Bears bandwagon?
Beat a good team. I will always say, in any sport in America, in order to be a contender, I need to see you beat a contender, especially if you're new to the table. Like the Chicago Bears are new to the table. Like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, they've built up enough equity that I can call them a contender from day one. But the Chicago Bears have beaten the Steelers, the Vikings, the Giants, the Bengals, the Saints, the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Cowboys early in the season when they looked like a far cry of a team that we're seeing right now that actually looks like a playoff contender. The Bears have not beaten a good team on their schedule. In fact, they've lost to the contenders. They've lost to the Lions. They've lost to the Ravens and TBD if we really view them as even contenders. Now, the Bears have several opportunities upcoming on their schedule. They play the Eagles this week. They get the Packers twice. They have the 49ers. They have the Lions. Like, they have several opportunities to beat legitimate contenders. It starts against the Eagles this week, but I need to see the Bears beat a good team. I think we all need to see the Bears beat a good team on primetime television when we are all watching and we can legitimately say, yes, this is a different Bears team. Because I don't think a lot of just casual viewers realize the Bears are 8-3 because they're not playing primetime games in primetime kind of matchups.
Yeah, but I think part of this has to come back, Caroline, to the fact that at some point people make up their minds. And once they make up their minds, they don't want to hear different. We're slow on certain quarterbacks. We're just slow to evolve our opinions. And because here's my pushback. You're right that the Bears need a key win. I guess I would just ask the world, is Drake May beating stacking up key wins? Is Drake May
they
out
beat the Bills
putting up?
That's when we changed our minds about
That's
Drake May and
one.
the Patriots.
That's one.
When they
Since
beat
then,
the Bills, it was different.
But since the Bills, it's been the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucs, the Jets, and the Bengals. Those are the wins we're talking about for Drake May. And he's an MVP candidate. We won't even give credit to Caleb for the fact that Caleb looks different in this offense. Like, people are saying, well, it's coming along. It's coming along. Like, we don't say that with Drake May. So I think what's maddening to me is I feel like people came into the draft process and made up their mind some kind of way about Caleb Williams because whether or not they didn't like the crying or the painted fingernails, whatever it was, it created narratives. And then in season one, when through no fault of his own, the Bears decided to put absolutely incompetent coaches around him that tried to destroy the kid's career, then we turned around and we decided that meant Caleb wasn't going to be very good. Like, every time we have a let's redraft the draft from a couple of years ago conversation, it's really, well, how great is Jaden? How great is Drake? And we don't even want to include Caleb in that combo. And I guess, to me, what's frustrating about that is that Jaden Daniels last year won really lucky football games. And we turned around and said, yeah, but Jaden's the man. Drake May this year is beating just slop everywhere. And we're like, oh, Drake May's the man. And then we see Caleb and we're like, well, I mean, let's wait until he does it against somebody that's actually a valid opponent. Like, I just think we're taking forever to shift on Caleb. And I'm not saying that we should turn around and create a statue for him. I just want him to get the same level of benefit of the doubt that we've wildly tried to give Michael Penix Jr. from that draft class, that we stupidly tried to give J.J. McCarthy, that we're trying to force onto Bo Nix even though he's losing teams. Like, it just feels like the one quarterback in that class that we're not willing to turn around and say, hey, you know what? He's doing pretty good. Is Caleb. And I don't know why.
And I think the difference between he and Drake May, because you bring up a fair point. It's not like the Patriots have necessarily had a gauntlet, but the Patriots have beaten the Bucs and the Bills. That is better than any win that the Bears have on their schedule. The other thing is the Bears are barely, no pun intended, beating bad teams. They beat a bad Steelers team by a field goal. They beat a bad Vikings team by 2 points. They beat a bad Giants team by 4. They gave up 42 points to the Bengals and beat them by 1 score. And they obliterated the Saints, but everybody obliterates the Saints. So, I guess you'll get credit for that, but you're not doing anything that the Falcons can't do. And I think that the Bears are a far better team than the Falcons are. They can achieve far more than the Falcons can. So I think think that is the difference as well. It's not just who they've beaten or the teams on their schedule. It's how they've beaten them in the process and how it's looked. It's also, I think, the pieces around Caleb Williams versus Drake May. I would venture to say that Roma Dunze and DJ Moore are a better 1-2 duo than anything that Drake May has in New England. So I know I'm picking at straws here and I know I'm being nitpicky, but I think that Drake May has shown us a more explosive style of football. I think Drake May has shown us more than Caleb Williams had. That's not to say that I'm not going to change my mind about Caleb Williams. I've been incredibly impressed by what I've seen from Caleb Williams. I think we've seen maturity. I think that we've seen growth. We can watch Caleb Williams make a back-breaking, dumb decision and a bad throw, and then he can bounce back from it. Maybe previously, whether it was Caleb Williams at USC or Caleb Williams in his rookie season, if he made a mistake like that, you could sense it. You could sense that it was sticking around and it was staying in the back of his mind. That's a different Caleb Williams. He can be far more of a goldfish now than he was previously. And I think that's huge. And that's credit to him. That's credit to Ben Johnson to show that maturation process.
And that's all really fair analysis. I think Ben Johnson has had to rebuild a quarterback that the Bears did their best to break in season 1. So I look at this with some grace to where this thing is going. And I agree with you. I'm not sure the Chicago Bears are actually a good football team this year. Just like I wasn't sure if the Commanders were really actually a good football team last year. What is surprising to me is that through all of this process for Caleb Williams, through the process of learning the new offense and trying to figure out some of the habits that were bad. And I realize Drake May has done the same things. He's had to do the same things this year with Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel, certainly. It just feels like we're so slow to turn the ship. And I feel this has happened a few times with quarterbacks. Like when Lamar first got into the league, it took forever, I feel like, for people to turn around and acknowledge, hey, Lamar actually might be really good at this. When Josh Allen first got into the league, it took forever for people to acknowledge that Josh might actually be good. Like I remember people doing breakdown after breakdown of why his inaccuracy was going to be something that could never be fixed, right? And then by the time it got fixed, now it feels like we've overcorrected and we won't steer the ship for any critical thinking on any. Like it takes forever for our narratives about quarterbacks to be changed. And I think my frustration, particularly for Caleb, is that right now, is Caleb better than Drake May today? I don't think so. I think that's probably pretty fair. Does Caleb have a better upside than Jaden Daniels? Probably not, because we've seen what Jaden can absolutely live to. Mm-hmm. But it feels like he's relegated to even a lower conversation at times than Penix, than Bo and JJ. And I can't handle that. In my mind, I've seen a Bears organization try and go full Trevor Lawrence. Like I would argue that the Jags ruined Trevor Lawrence. The Bears did their best in year 1 with Eberflus and with just a terrible hired offensive coordinator. Like they did their best to ruin Caleb. And he's managed to undo a lot of that bad in a really short amount of time. I'd argue he has 12 games of competent coaching, and we're seeing this meteoric rise. So I just want to see, maybe meteoric's a little overstated. We're seeing a rise in his capability, right? I want to see that continue. To that point, they had his schedule up earlier. I will say, if they beat the Eagles, I want to believe this weekend. If they beat the Eagles, everybody will turn around. Everybody will come up roses. But Caroline, I also think like if they beat the Eagles, Monday it's going to be what's wrong with Philly. Like that's just where we are on the Bears and Caleb.
And that is the conversation, I think, a lot of times. When we talk about the Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, who we view as legitimate Super Bowl contenders, who the General Football Society views as Super Bowl contenders, they will be the story. It's the same thing with the Bills. It's the same thing with the Chiefs. With these teams that we put on a different pedestal because they've deserved it. They've earned it. They deserve it. They will be the story in a win or a loss. But that will start to change my mind about what this Bears team is. I'm not going to put my money on it, frankly. I think the biggest fatal flaw of this Chicago team is their defensive front. They can't stop the line. This is a perfect opportunity for Saquon Barkley to have a bounce back, get back kind of game after a 22-yard performance against the Cowboys. Again, Bears, prove me wrong. But even if the Bears, let's say they, with this grind of a schedule that they have upcoming against these legitimate contending teams, the Eagles, the Packers, I'll throw the Niners in that conversation, and the Lions, those next 5 games. If the Bears win 1 or 2 of them, that's going to be great and it's going to be exciting and it's going to be great experience against Super Bowl contending teams. It's not going to be enough, I don't think, to make the playoffs. But even if the Bears don't make the postseason, I think Bears fans have every reason to be optimistic because I think the Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson marriage is a good one. And you look at their 4 leading receivers. Roma Dunze on a rookie contract. DJ Moore, only 28 years old. Colston Loveland, rookie. Luther Burden, rookie. Those are all young and young stars that are being huge contributors for this team. And then we can also add on top of the fact that Kyle Monangai is their second leading rusher, and he's getting better week over week over week. He's also a rookie. You have such a young core on rookie deals, majority of these guys on rookie deals, that you can build year over year on what they're building this season. I think I don't think there's another team in the NFL that has a higher ceiling than what the Bears have right now.
I don't disagree. I think Bears fans will lose their minds if they start 8-3 and don't make the playoffs. That being said, let's find out how much Frank disrespected him. It's time for the Power Frankings. Frank Schwab going to join us next. We'll see who he's finally got at the top of the leaderboard.